Hey everyone, it's Harry from Everyday BBQ. Welcome to my channel where we teach you how to master barbecue so you can spread barbecue love. It's the holiday season upon us again, and one of the most common questions I get from my viewers as well as my students is, Harry, how do you smoke a perfect prime rib? I have here a 6.5 pound prime rib roast, and we're going to show you a hack so we can cook this entire 6.5 pound prime rib to medium rare perfection to serve your guests in about 40 minutes. We're going to serve it also with a British side dish that I like called the Yorkshire pudding. And we're going to also, in the tradition of the British style beef, we're going to serve it with some mushy peas. So come along for the ride. Before I show you how to do my prime rib hack, let me just go and answer some of the common questions I have. Because if you ask me a question, you know I respond to all your comments. And for those of you who have been following me on my channel for the past year, you know I take the time to give you love and respond to every single comment that I get, whether the comment is related to cooking or otherwise. So if you're too bored to listen to my answers to common barbecue questions for prime rib, go ahead and speed through this portion and jump right into the cooking portion, which comes after my FAQ. Question number 1, Harry, can I cook my prime rib in my smoker? Yes, I cook my prime rib in my Weber Smoky Mountain, my Weber kettle, and my pellet cooker, my drum. So I find that when you cook prime rib in a pit, it gives you a nice little smoky note that you cannot get in the oven. Will it be better than the oven version? Yes, the prime rib, in my opinion, when you cook it on a smoky pit, gives a little kiss of smoke to your prime rib, which will wow your guests. So between a oven prime rib and a pit smoker prime rib, I would always pick the smoker version. How do I set up my pit to smoke a prime rib? There's actually two ways. One is to cook it low and slow around 200 degrees Fahrenheit with some apple wood, and cook it until the internal temperature is about 110, and then kind of char it over a hot iron griddle or use a blowtorch to do that. You can also cook it sort of kind of hotter, also around say 350 degrees. So if you cook at higher temperature, there's more shrinkage, so maybe a 6 pound, you might lose maybe 20%. But if you cook it really low and slow at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, there's hardly any loss at all, and you get the pink all the way to the edge. What size prime rib do I buy for my party? Basically, the way it's gonna work is you plan on about say 2 servings per pound. So if this is a 6.5 pound prime rib, this is easily good for about 8 people. Where can I buy a good prime rib? Well, obviously you want to buy beef of the highest grade possible. The highest grade in America is prime, followed by choice, followed by select. And most people are not aware there's actually about 8 grades of beef out there, but the top 3 are prime, choice, and select. If you can afford it, you can also splurge and go for one of those grass-fed beefs or even a Wagyu. A Wagyu from a company I usually buy from called Snake River Farms. Typically, it's pretty expensive and you're paying a premium for it, but if you really want a steak for that special occasion, a Snake River Farm Wagyu ribeye is absolutely out of this world. How do you choose a good one? Well, purchase the best one you can afford, and prime is best, choice is also good. This one is from Costco, so Costco carries prime grade prime rib roast. So these are really excellent, great marbling striations. I have a video out on my channel that teaches you kind of how to pick different kinds of meats for competition for home cooking. Is it better to buy bone-in ribeye or boneless ribeye? Both are good, and then it's best for you to calculate the yield because the bone itself weighs about 1 to 1.5 pounds. So if you buy a 6 pound bone in, you've got about 2 pounds of bone, so about 4 pounds of usable meat. So adjust accordingly. Some of my friends and family, they like to gnaw on the bone, so occasionally I'll get the one with the bone, but my preferred choice essentially is to get it kind of boneless like this one right here. What time do I start cooking? In my Christmas dinner, it starts at around 5:30. For say a 8-person Christmas party, a 6.5 pound boneless prime rib will be fine. If you're cooking it low and slow at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, I would put it in the pit around 1 p.m. for a 5:30 p.m. party. That way it should be done around 4:30, and it'll give you about an hour and a half to let the meat rest, so that by the time you serve, you're not all stressed out trying to get the food ready. Harry, help me, I'm out of time and I only have 1 hour to cook a 7-pound prime rib roast before dinner. Okay, so for this episode, I'm going to show you my MacGyver saving technique on how I can cook a 6.5-pound prime rib perfectly to medium rare aged in about 40 minutes. So we're going to show you guys how to do that. Okay, will the prime rib be too smoky when I cook in my smoker? My recommendation is go easy on the wood. You're not going to smoke the prime rib for very long. So if you find that about 2 tennis size chunks of wood such as apple, hickory, pecan, cherry, that usually works, and it gives the meat a nice kind of light smokiness, not too heavy, because as we always say in competition barbecue, your meat has to be kissed by smoke, not doused by smoke. Now in terms of woods, the one wood that I should mention that I'm not a favorite of is I'm not a favorite of mesquite. Mesquite has a kind of a oily, kerosene twang. I went to school in Texas Tech, so I lived in Texas for a while, so I am familiar with the flavor of mesquite. I particularly like mesquite with seafood, and when I grill lobsters, mesquite is great. But when I'm cooking a prime rib, I would rather stay away from mesquite. Go with a nice, mellow, sweet wood such as apple or hickory. How much will it cost me? In the US, beef prices kind of vary. So prime anywhere can run from about say $12 to $36 depending on where you buy it. A choice grade, if you go to Costco and Sam's, you can probably pick it up for about maybe $10 to $15 a pound. And if you buy a Wagyu will cost you over $200 for a small piece, but definitely it's worth it for special occasions. So buy the highest grade you can afford and you feel comfortable cooking. What seasoning works best for prime rib? Seasoning for prime rib should be simple. We don't want to overdo the meat because you want to let the natural flavor and the tenderness of the meat come through. So I think that a regular salt and pepper rub is great. Maybe a little bit more garlic powder. To amp it up a little bit, I have my moolah beef rub, which has additional ingredients in there such as dried shiitake mushroom. It's got a powdered Worcestershire, some citric acid to even take it up a notch to even a higher level of flavor. You don't need to use a rub. You can use a salt and pepper, and that's just great. How long do you leave the rub on before cooking? I find that the dry brine works really well for a big cut of beef like this. So I would smother it with the rub and then let it sit overnight in the refrigerator. Let the salt ions melt into the meat, penetrate the meat, so that the saltiness will penetrate the meat all the way to the middle. You can apply the rub on and cook it right away, but then the flavor is kind of salty on the outside. But if you really want the best possible result, go ahead and apply any kind of rub you want. Salt and pepper is fine. Let it sit overnight in the refrigerator. Now, the foot of caution here, if you're gonna be letting it sit overnight to do a dry brine, and whatever product you're applying, just apply about 2/3 as much. Because if you apply the same amount as you would if you cook it right away, it will be too salty. Do you wait for your meat to rise to room temperature before cooking? No, it's not safe to do so. So if you are going to be smoking your prime rib, you want the prime rib to begin at the lowest possible temperature straight from the refrigerator, probably around say 34 degrees, because you want that long temperature gradient for the prime rib to absorb the smoke. When it comes out of the refrigerator, the pores are open, the meat is cold. You have a long temperature gradient for the meat to absorb the smoke. I don't also put any oil on my prime rib when I smoke it because putting on the oil covers the pores. Once the pores are sealed, it's hard for the smoke to enter. So I much prefer to smoke my prime rib with just the rub on. Now, if I'm gonna be grilling my steaks, then it's okay to put a layer of oil because when you grill your steaks, you're not gonna get a lot of smoke absorption. Do you have a perfect prime rib recipe? Funny you should ask. That's why this video is being made, so that you too can achieve prime rib perfection in about 40 minutes. To cook a 6.5-pound prime rib roast in about 40 minutes, it's really simple. First of all, you wanna cut it into smaller pieces. You wanna smoke and sear. Cut it in the middle and serve the pink side out. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to eat it into 3 pieces so I can smoke it in about a 1.5 inch size prime rib. So I'm going to cut it right now into 3 pieces, throw it in the smoker, get it to the internal of about 110 and give it a nice sear, and then slice it right down the middle for a prime rib perfection. put a little bit of a Worcestershire to kind of create a tacky surface. You can use many different products so long as it doesn't have oil. Sometimes I use a little bit of mustard. That also will work really well. Like some of my Celebrate Daddy Moolah beef rub for Space USA. You can also use salt and pepper, no problemo. Just use any kind of a like a rough coarse pepper you like, and some kosher salt is good. Also, if you want to add a little bit of garlic powder, that helps. I'm going to put on the rub fairly thick because it is a thick cut of steak. And if you can leave this overnight and apply about 2/3 the amount, or at least leave it out for an hour. If this was a MacGyver hack like my student, he didn't have a lot of time because he had to cook this for dinner guests in about an hour. In this case, we're gonna kind of follow his style and then try to cook this in about 40 minutes from start to end. This is technically called a schmear. A schmear is to help the rub stick onto the meat. People always ask me, Harry, do you season the sides? Yes, you can. I'm gonna season the sides. All right, there you have it. 3 pieces ready to go and ready to put on the smoker. We're using the PKTX aluminum grill to cook the prime rib. I'm gonna light it now. Put a couple of starter cubes at the bottom, a little bit of charcoal, have it start up, and we'll be ready to cook. The pit is up to temp, about 300 degrees, so I'm gonna go lay the steaks on the cool side. I have a little drip pan to catch any drippings at the bottom. We're gonna smoke it and get the internal temperature to about 100 degrees before we sear it. Get it nice and charred, and cut it right in the middle for a perfect medium rare prime rib. It's been about 35 minutes and they are about right. Let's see here, 120 degrees. We want to go ahead and give them a sear, and then we're ready to serve our prime rib. We're ready to get a nice char on the steaks. We're gonna put it in at the 2 o'clock position, like so. Just sear maybe about a minute on each side here. After a minute, we'll flip it back to the 2 o'clock position. After another minute, we'll go into the 10 o'clock position. Flip it to the 10 o'clock position. And cook it until it's about medium rare. Alright, let's go ahead and sear the last one. A little thyme brush here. Alright, searing is completed. Fire. And we'll let it rest. Making the Yorkshire pudding is super easy, and this is a British staple when they have any kind of a beef dinner. It's only got 3 ingredients, some flour, eggs, and milk. And the secret to making good Yorkshire pudding is really simple. You just want to make sure that the amount of each product is about the same. So we have about that much of flour, 3 eggs, and the matching amount of milk. The trick to making good Yorkshire pudding, according to my British friends, is you need to basically get a nice amount of air in it. The best way to do that is you can whisk it with the whisk, or I cheat. I use a blender. The other key also is to make sure that there's not just air, but that the Yorkshire pudding mixture is refrigerated, so it's super cold when it goes into the hot smoking muffin tin with a little bit of beef fat or butter in it. Okay, so here's the 3 ingredients, and I'm gonna go blend it and then put it in the refrigerator and let it sit until it gets cold. Make the Yorkshire pudding, all you need is your batter chilled in the refrigerator. You need some beef drippings and fat. You also need a very hot muffin tin. The temperature is about 450 on the muffin tin. So we're gonna put a little bit of fat on it. Some beef fat, like so. Maybe about 1 tablespoon of beef fat. This is the dripping. This is so good. Fill it about 1/3 or so. It's gonna puff up a little bit. I like my Yorkshire pudding kind of shallow. Some people like it really tall. You can also do this in a full 9-inch baking tray. Put it back in a 450 degree oven. Let it bake and let it rise. Super excited. It looks like it's almost ready. Maybe another 30 seconds or so. Then get a bit of a char on it. It's gonna be absolutely gorgeous. Mushy peas are really easy to make. Just add some butter to some peas, a little bit of beef fat here, and you can mash it with a masher. I like my kind of mushy peas, not so mushy after all. kind of a puree versus a complete mash. All right, season with some pepper, a bit of salt, and then you mash it to the consistency you like. And this is an acquired taste, so this is common in Britain, and not everybody in Britain even likes this, but I enjoy eating mushy peas. You can add more milk or cream if you like, a little bit more butter, but this is about perfect. Once the meat has rested, we're ready to slice it in half to reveal the pink side. So I'm going to run my knife right down the middle here. Voila, see? Took about 35 minutes to cook. This is more of a medium, but I prefer actually medium rare. If you want at home, just run it a little less time. So here's the final plated dish here of the prime rib with mushy peas, Yorkshire pudding, and brown gravy. So that's gonna be a super good eating for a special occasion, for the holidays, or for the special someone. All right, I'm gonna eat the spinalis dorsi. Now I like my prime rib with gravy. Some of you may not like that, so but it's up to you. Wow, that was super delicious. Smoky, beefy, that the gravy matches it perfectly. I'm gonna take a bite of the Yorkshire pudding now. All the gravy. If you like gravy, this is the dish for you to have. Man, I love gravy. Look at that. Swimming in gravy, made with a bit of beef fat here. There's really something special about Yorkshire pudding, and I understand why it's a British comfort food, because that gravy on that little crusty, floury, doughy thing is absolutely great. A great mouthfeel. In America, we enjoy mashed potatoes. Again, in England, this is definitely a great dish. Let me try my mushy peas now. Made with butter, a little bit of cream, salt, pepper, and I kind of mush it this way so that it's not completely mush. So I like my little bits and pieces of peas. Try that. Man, that was a good bite of peas. So I'm gonna now go for the piece de la resistance here. Have a piece of beef, a little piece of Yorkshire pudding with gravy, and then put my mushy peas on top. Wow, that was absolutely amazing. Beautiful dish here for you to make for your friends and family for the holidays or for some special occasion. Not that hard to do, about 30-40 minutes of cooking. Prep time is probably another half an hour. So you can probably pull this off for dinner for your friends and family, no sweat at all. I'm going to leave some detailed instructions in the recipe. I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe and share with your friends. Remember, I read all your comments. I respond to all your comments. So if you like it or you don't like it, just leave me a note down below. I'll be posting more holiday recipes to wow your friends and family. Remember, from my heart to yours, love always. Live, love, and barbecue.